Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mason Douglas. I'm an honor student at Lone Star College, Kingwood. I'll be presenting to you my presentation, Hiraeth, Yearning for Their Homes. Before starting my presentation, I would like to introduce to you a quote from Mahmoud Darwish. لو يذكر الزيتون غارزه لصار الزيتون دمعة. Mahmoud Darwish was trying to say, which means if the olives remember who planted them, then the oil would have turned into tears. The Mahmoud Darwish message was trying to explain to the Palestinians who got displaced from Palestine on what's happening to their Palestinian land after the 1948. And he used the olives because olives is a major symbol to the Palestinians in Palestine. So after they left their olive groves, the oil would have turned into tears because they left. Which brings me to my important slideshow that will explain to you the definition to many of the slides I will go through. Hiraeth, which means yearning and homesickness, which was mainly about the Palestinians who were displaced or were forced to leave their home. So they're either grieving or yearning to be back to Palestinian lands. So during Al-Nakba 1948, specifically May 14th, around 700,000 Palestinians were forced to be displaced from Palestine or massacred on the hand of the Haganah, which was a terrorist group in the Palestinian point of view. The Haganah was a terrorist group that killed and destroyed around 541 villages in Palestine. Which brings me to Zionism, which was the first pride of the Haganah. So Zionism was, the definition of it was the creating of the land of Israel. And it was created on the hand Nathan Bardam, which was a author who published a book about Zionism. And he focused mainly on creating the land of Israel on the land of Palestine. Which brings me to my research question. How did the Nakba in the 1948 affect Palestinians, civilians in the 1940s, resulting in displacement from their homes due to discrimination and limitation of speech, with many of these factors continuing to this present day? I have used two main books for my research. Nakba and Survival by Adel Mana. She was a witness in the Palestinian, her family was a witness in the Palestinian land, and her family didn't leave the Palestinian land, however, they stayed but left the state. So they included many testimonies about what happened to the Palestinians who stayed in the Palestinian land. She also provided how the Palestinian land looked like before and after the Nakba. So in 1946, as you can notice, the Palestinian land was expanding and it was full of Palestinians. However, after 1947, the Palestinians and the Palestinians were forced to leave Palestine, and Palestine was reduced to small villages all around the Israeli land. Which brings me to my second major book, Voices of the Nakba by Diana Allen. She gathered many testimonies around Palestine, not specifically from Palestine, and it was mainly because she noticed major patterns between the Palestinians who left Palestine with fear and discrimination. So it was from either Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, or United States or UK. So around 15 testimonies, but I will be covering two major testimonies in the Voices of Palestine by Diana Allen. So Taliba was a Palestinian who was displaced in the 1948, and the author noticed that she was afraid to express herself in the 1940s because she was afraid to express herself because of the 1940s, because her dad was a revolutionist in the 1948. So her dad got killed by the Haganah, and she was afraid to express herself because she thought that the Haganah will come after her next. She was constantly seeking refuge for 70 years, and her fear stayed with her even after she left the Palestinian land. Which brings me to one of the major videos that was released in 2010. So it will show you how the Palestinians are treated from 1948 to 2010. So you'll see Ahmed Manasra, which was a Palestinian 13-year-old kid who was accused of stabbing and killing one Israeli and wounding one other Israeli in the Israeli land. and he was captured, and his cousin was murdered on the hand of the police, the Israeli police. So in this video, Ahmed was accused that he stabbed two Israeli people. However, after 9 years, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, depression, and he was released from the Israeli prison after 9 years and a half, because the Israeli revealed that it was a false accusation and he had no part of the Israeli stabbing. Which brings me to another testimony in Voices of the Nakba, Mahmoud Jamil al-Arabi, which was a Palestinian who married a Jewish woman in Palestine soon after he got displaced from Palestine because Zionists didn't believe him that the woman was Jewish, or that he he was with a Jewish woman. We have noticed a major pattern between the Palestinians outside of Palestinian lands, specifically because they were constantly seeking refuge. They were afraid to express themselves because of the Haganah, and they mentioned a lot of broken promises by the Arab leaders, specifically in the 1948. So one of the major Arab leaders that broke their promise is Al-Hussein, the king of Jordan, the king of Jordan during the Nakba, which promised the Palestinian that Haifa, which is a state of Palestine, will stay safe as long as he's alive. However, the state of Haifa was soon airstriked, and Muhammad and Taliban was forced to display. Which brings me to one of the major first Prime Minister of Israel, David Ben-Gurion. He did condemn the two major Tel and Irgun, the two major terrorist organizations, of causing a lot of terrorists and a lot of fear to the Palestinians. However, he didn't condemn the Haganah with all that terrorist act. So he still believed that they were a defense team. So that's why the Israelis and the Zionists believed the Haganah as a special group that protected them from the Palestinians. Highlight of significance. It reveals to us how the shape of our world came to be. So it does explain to us how Palestine is not Palestine anymore, and how Israel became to be after the 1948. It revealed to us, specifically, it also reveals to us how important critical thinking and individual research are, especially in our current day, since Instagram and TikTok will be spreading false information, and people will believe it as fast as possible without doing their research. Final outcome. The research revealed forced hidden individual testimonies, since many articles and books have not included the Palestinian testimony and only included evidence of what happened, with no emotions or fear that was sent from the Palestinian to the people around the world. There is a lot of political marginalization, so many Palestinians were not able to express themselves in the Palestinian lands, just like Ahmed Manasra, because he was not accused and he kept telling the interrogator that he didn't have any hand in this. However, many of the Israelis did not believe him. My conclusion. Palestinian testimonies revealed enduring patterns of discrimination, broken promises, and narrative control that continue to shape how their history is understood. Including my great-grandparents and my grandparents, they were the people who lived in Palestine before the 1948. However, my grandma and grandpa were forced to leave, and my great-grandma stayed in Palestine. And she died in the land of Palestine, specifically in the West Bank. However, my dad's side, my great-grandma and my grandpa were forced to leave the Palestinian land because the Israelis kicked them out. these are my future research. I want to understand how media representation influence global understanding of the conflict, especially because there is a lot of false information spreading in our world, and many people just believe Instagram and TikTok without doing their research. I also want to understand how do education systems present and interpret this history in the United States. I have noticed a major pattern between the United States textbooks. So they revealed to us before the 1948 how the Palestinian land looked like, and then after the 1948, however, they don't include an explanation on how the land of Israel came to be. These are my sources. Thank you.